Smartphone innovation has plateaued over the last few years, and it's super evident with the iPhone. If I made a tier list of the iPhones in 2014, you could see that every 2 years, and sometimes even just one, the iPhone made drastic improvements. The difference was dramatic and enough to make it jump to the next tier. Fast forward 10 years, and that is no longer the case. If I create a tier list for the iPhones now, it looks something like this. The 1 to 3GS are in the lowest tier, then the 4 to 5S, and then at the top of the B tier is the iPhone X/10. When Apple introduced their first Pro phone, the iPhone 11 Pro in 2019, I would say that was the phone that made the next jump to tier A of smartphones. Its camera really made average consumers think, okay, I probably never have to buy a camera because my phone camera is just so good. But from then on, I really think that the high-end Pro phones have peaked in terms of what a smartphone can do, so much so that the 11 Pro all the way to the 14 Pro have mostly been refinements, but nothing to jump to that next tier. Obviously, there's been improvements from the 11 Pro to the 14 Pro, but does it really matter if it goes from amazing to amazing and still in the A tier? It's mostly been marginally better. So does the 15 Pro make the first jump into the supreme S tier, or is it still in the A tier? And after using the iPhone 15 Pro for a month, is it really worth it? Let's find out. This is Supreme Value, where I use a rating system / formula to determine whether a product is worth it or not numerically. I give a word rating that corresponds to a number and tier for 4 categories. Those categories are priority, price, features, and quality. Those numbers are then averaged out to give a value score, starting with quality. This is definitely the most beautiful iPhone design that has ever been made. The brushed titanium paired with the matte glass and glossy camera feels and looks so pristine, like it came from like a 5-star hotel, which I know nothing about. I mean, this color makes the gold iPhone look cheap. The subtle curves really do make it more comfortable than the previously sharp edges on the 14, 13, and 12. This combination of flat sides but curved edges is like the best of both worlds from the iPhone 5's beloved design and the softer but slipperier curves from the iPhone 6. But like 80% of people, because I don't want that beautiful design to break, I put on a case. Which begged me to wonder, should we really care about design? Apple, through I'm sure rounds of research and testing, intricately crafted the subtle curves so that the phone doesn't dig into your hand. So you shouldn't use a case so you can actually utilize and appreciate Apple's efforts. On the other hand, it's a $1,000 phone and it would be a shame if you scratched it up or broke the back glass, so you should definitely protect it with a case. It puts us, the user, in a conflicted position, which mostly results in putting on a case. So is there even a point in raving about the design if it's just hidden behind the case? I actually think design for a phone is a bit overrated and overmarketed. When Samsung made the back of their S21 plastic and people were like, what the flip? I mean, yeah, it's slightly whack that an $800 phone used plastic, but I mean, with a case, it's also significantly lighter, so I would have personally not minded that. Which brings me to the titanium sides. This phone, while it doesn't feel light, it doesn't feel heavy either like the previous phones. You can definitely notice this, and you have less fatigue when holding the phone in your hand. And the phone is a hair smaller due to the 30% decrease in bezel, which is also a nice refinement, although this really just matches the bezel of an old 2021 Samsung phone, so like, let's not make it a bigger deal than it is either. The display is really nice. It's bright enough to easily view in the sunlight, and indoors the colors are vibrant, not oversaturated, and seem pretty natural. ProMotion, aka a fast 120Hz refresh rate, also makes everything feel really smooth. The resolution has been the same since the 11 Pro, and to be honest, I'm fine with that for life because I really can't see a pixel and every image seems super sharp and crisp, though I am ready for this little blob to go away someday. For day-to-day use, apps open in like less than a second, switching between apps is silky smooth, picture-in-picture mode is seamless for multitasking, everything is super fast. There's never been a moment where I'm waiting or like, alright, come on now. I mean, yeah, I really haven't experienced any lag. When it comes to performance, the new 17 Pro chip is really entering the S tier in terms of power. A tier power is really all I need, and I want to say most people need, but it surpasses that. Apple emphasized how this chip is capable of some PS5 game titles, but to be honest, I don't really play mobile games, so really the power for me is more than enough. I think if it had the A16 or even 15 chip, I probably wouldn't even notice. In terms of day-to-day, I generally use my phone around 3 to 4 hours a day, so the battery to me is actually like supreme. Now for testing, I went a bit longer and got to around 6+ hours, and I would still end the day at around 35%, so I feel confident saying that you can comfortably get 7 to 9 hours of battery per day, which I would say for most people is solid. I also know that there's people that constantly have something playing on their phone and their screen on time is like 10 to 13 hours. And I think those people will probably end up having to charge their phone still at some point. Overall, people will still have to charge their phone every day though. And we can't talk about the iPhone without talking about the camera. The iPhone camera, in my opinion, over the last 2 to 3 years has entered the S tier. The iPhone camera is so good that most average consumers will never in their life have to buy a camera. I'm no professional, but to me, the colors are natural yet bright. The dynamic range has really been incredible on the iPhone. Some photos look like someone is putting a flashlight for the bright parts of the picture. It literally looks like one of those backlit picture canvases. You could really tell when you take pictures of the sunset. The clarity is beautiful. Something I really like was that now you can change photos to portrait mode after you take the photo. And it works great. If you zoom all the way in, you can see the line, but looking at just the whole photo, you can't notice it at all. And I think a lot of people will really make use out of this. The iPhone's video is also really smooth and stable. It's so good that even Apple literally filmed their most recent Apple event with the iPhone 15 Pro. And I even see a lot of professionals doing like shot on iPhone type of videos. Overall, the classy display, top-notch camera for anyone that just wants to point and shoot, reliable battery life, and outdoor visibility, bright display, I give it an amazing for quality. So what else can you do with the iPhone 15 Pro and what makes it stand out? The long-awaited USB-C is here. You can now conveniently use one cable to charge all your devices. Finally. You can also plug in USB accessories too, which makes it even closer to being like a camera. Apple and some people are making the biggest deal out of this. For plenty of people, myself included, this is nice and that's it. Apple has replaced their mute switch with an all-new action button. Now you can map the action button to pretty much any app and even specific functions within apps, which is pretty cool. For the first 3 weeks, I had it on the camera and I think I pressed it like once, but then once I changed it to my clocks app, now ever since then, I use the action button every night to set my alarms and it's actually useful. I think it takes some time for you to find some function that you'll actually utilize. The first 3 weeks I was using this phone, my opinion was that the most people will just not end up using the button like me, but once I was able to condition my brain to remember it, it became a habit and now I use the button every day. What I thought was interesting was that they make you press and hold, but what's more annoying is that you can only map it to one hold and press. You can't even double press or triple press to do something. They literally added a whole new button and you can't even do that. I'm so not surprised. Apple always does this where they purposely hold back on things that they are clearly capable of just so they can have an update in the future. I can pretty much promise that this will go out in iOS 18, which brings me to the iPhone's best feature, their annually updated iOS. This phone, in terms of software experience, notably gets better over time. Over the years, there have been some killer features. The software has become incredibly intuitive and refined, and this year there are some subtle and fun enhancements, but nothing too crazy though, to be honest. I really didn't use most of the headlining features. Apple saw that winter was coming, so they implemented a portable heater, which was personally my favorite feature yet, although a lot of people were concerned about this, so they took it away. Just like that, with a software update, they were able to fix it. While I still don't get why iOS and macOS don't have clipboard, iOS's annual update support, USB-C, and the action button all make the iPhone Pro amazing for features. $1,000. We're talking $1,000, like $1,000. Yo, $1,000, y'all. I feel like people forget that they're paying $1,000 because it's broken down to monthly payments. So let me remind y'all, it's $1,000. That's a lot of money. Now, people go straight to saying the iPhone 15 Pro is way too expensive because of its high price. And that's me too, but if you really look at what the iPhone 15 Pro has to offer, is it really expensive relative to its quality and features? What I realize as an average consumer is that you end up paying for a lot of quality and features that you don't use, but it's capable of, and some people aren't aware of this. Even though the iPhone 15 Pro is technically for like pro users, plenty of non-pro average consumers buy it. And while the average consumers can actually benefit from a lot of what makes it a pro, there's also plenty of it that isn't ever utilized. If I used all those things I mentioned, I probably would say the price is good and maybe even great, but I don't. And at the end of the day, to me, for what I can get out of the iPhone 15 Pro and it being $1,000 and even $1,100 with tax and installation fees, I can't quite give it a mid for price because it has so much to offer, but $1,000 is so high and I can't take advantage of many of features and performance, and I'm sure plenty others can't either, and so I can't quite give it even a good. So for the price, I'm gonna give it a mid/good rating. For me personally, I just like using my laptop more than my phone. If I need to message someone, I'd rather type. If I want to watch something, I'd rather watch it on my bigger and better display. More screen real estate is just better. So to me, to be honest, having a nice phone, even though I'm a tech enthusiast, is not a big deal. Regular and cheaper phones are just too good now. Obviously, it's still important to me. Like, my phone is with me at all times, and it's literally a pocket computer, but in comparison to all of my other devices or things I have, it is higher in priority, but not at the top for sure. I would say compared to the average consumer, I prioritize my phone a bit less, and so for priority, I would put it in the B tier, aka great for priority. If I average the 4 ratings out, the total score for me is 3.87 at good value, and I agree. In terms of value, it's cool. To me, if I kept this, it would be good value, but just short of great. If we're talking straight up quality and features, it's amazing, but still not quite S tier. So if you're debating if you should get the 15 Pro or wait for the 16 Pro, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the 16 Pro isn't also still just an A tier phone. I think smartphones will stay in the A tier range for another 3 to maybe even 5 years. So upgrading to a new phone for a while won't be terribly exciting, but I might be wrong. Now, for the average consumers buying this at retail price, I would only change the priority score to the A tier, as most people would use their phone heavily, and I think everything else would stay the same. So their score would be at 4.13 at great value. I think because people rely so much on their phone and the quality and features are amazing, it makes up for it. If you're wondering if you should get the 15 or 15 Pro, I would say if you can't tell between the 120Hz ProMotion display and 60Hz display on the regular base model phones, then definitely go with the 15. The 15 is lighter, still has an amazing camera. The 15 also has the same processor as the 14 Pro, and it's $200 cheaper. What's interesting now is that I would argue that the base model iPhone 15 is also in the A tier, strictly in terms of quality and features. Even Apple is struggling to differentiate the base model iPhones with the Pros, and the gap is shrinking. I think we've reached the point where the Pro iPhone, in my opinion, isn't really that much better than the base model. They're really in the same tier. But the iPhone 15 is, again, $200 cheaper, so probably overall value is just better. If you can tell the difference between the high refresh rate and you're coming from a 12 or 13, I would personally look into the 14 Pro and see how much money you can save. Because the iPhone 15 Pro isn't like way better than the 14 Pro. I feel like the 14 Pro is a heavier iPhone 15 with a comparably slightly better camera and fast refresh rate. If you're coming from a 12 or 13 Pro, it's probably going to be difficult going back to the 60Hz display, so I would say go with the 15 Pro or wait for next year. All in all, the iPhone is beginning its journey towards being an S-tier phone strictly in terms of quality and features, but it's just not there yet. And in terms of value, it's definitely nowhere near. This video is sponsored by me, baby. I bought this. Yeah, and I'll be giving it away. If you would like to support me, feel free to donate $10 to the Durham Rescue Mission. They are a nonprofit organization and one of the oldest and largest long-term homeless shelters that has provided over 4,000 meals, clothing, training, counseling, job placement, and much more. If you donate $10 and follow these steps, you will be given a chance to win this exact iPhone. All you have to do is comment your score and Instagram username in this format. For your score, you can just put 4 words if you're too lazy to calculate the score. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I'm hoping to encourage people to help support a community that really needs help, especially my people in Raleigh and Durham. I myself am really thankful for literally everything that I have, even literally being alive right now and having another day. I really hope to not take this for granted. And you might not think $10 is impactful, but that can actually provide 4 meals to people that really depend on it. My goal is to get 30 people to donate $10, and on December 13th I will randomly do an Instagram live to reveal who the winner is, and just do it by RNG. So basically, if you donate and participate correctly, you have a 1 in 30 chance of winning an iPhone 15 Pro, which is like pretty good, to be honest with you. Everyone that participates in one of my fundraisers will forever cement their name in the Supreme Value universe. Let's go. We have 3 new residents from our last video and a total of 14 residents, and we've raised $95. Let's go. That is my review of the iPhone 15 Pro. What did you think? Did you think my score was too high or too low? Please let me know. Peace and happy Thanksgiving. Y'all know Kim Kardashian, but do y'all know Kim Eugene?